Welcome to Meet the Filmmakers at the Apple Store, Regent Street in London. Would you please welcome our guest moderator, news editor for Empire Magazine, Chris Hewitt.
Hello, everyone. Why do I get the feeling you're not here for me? Strange one. Anyway, some of you have been here since 7:30 this morning, which means that you know that Thor: The Dark World is a sequel to 2011's Thor, and gives us a chance, the first chance since last year's Avengers, to see those battling brothers, Thor and Loki, in action. And before we meet our guests tonight, let's take a look at the trailer.
After all this time, now you come to visit me, brother. Why? To mock?
I need your help. But I wish I could trust you.
If you did, you'd be the fool I always took you for.
Some believe that before the universe, there was nothing. They're wrong. There was darkness, and it has survived.
What's gonna happen?
I gave you my word. I would return for you.
You face an enemy, known only to a few.
Known only to one.
You must be truly desperate to come to me for help.
If we do nothing, they will destroy us.
You even think about betraying him.
And I'll kill you. That was from New York.
I like her.
Thor, your bravery will not ease your pain. Your family, your world will be extinguished.
We're running out of time.
The very fabric of reality can be torn apart.
I'll find a way to save us all.
All yours.
Anyone else?
Please welcome the producer of Thor: The Dark World, Mr. Kevin Feige. The man who is Loki, Mr. Tom Hiddleston. And the director, Mr. Alan Taylor. So, Kevin, I want to start with you. Back when you're planning this is the second movie of Marvel's Phase 2. So back when you're planning this, when did this start? A couple of years ago? And how different is this movie from what you first had in your head?
We started this, I was trying to think earlier today. We were, I think, in post on Captain America when we started the development of this movie. And, you know, any movie changes and evolves over time. So I'd say it's a little different than what we started out with. But we knew coming off of Avengers that we needed to see what happened to this guy after the antics he pulled in the Avengers.
So what specifically did you want to do with this movie?
Further the strained but loving relationship between Thor and Loki.
Okay. Speaking of which, Mr. Hiddleston, what becomes of Loki after New York? Where do we meet him in this movie?
Well, the first thing that you see is Loki is hauled before Odin for the first time since the end of Thor.
The naughty step.
Yep. It's a hell of a naughty step. Yeah. You know, to answer for his crimes. And he's unrepentant and almost revels in that. And he's incarcerated for eternity in the darkest dungeons of Asgard.
Yeah. This seems a little harsh.
Yeah, he's been a bad man. You know, I think it's, for me, it was always coming into this and speaking at length with Alan and with Kevin was, where next? You know, we've seen Loki be a kind of charming psychopath in 2 films, and an antagonist for Thor, and trying to find a way of developing his psychology, of deepening it, of finding a new things to do, and part of that was continuing his particular strain of playfulness, but also kind of trying to get inside. You know, when he is so isolated and so lonely and so angry, you know, what does he have left to live for? And I think the film explores that.
I know most actors, when they play villains, don't necessarily think of their characters as villains, but what do you think of when you think of Loki now? Do you think of him as a bad guy? Do you think of him as a guy who means well deep inside? Deep inside?
I sort of see him as an anti-hero. There is something, and the great joy of playing him is inhabiting mischief as a shape, a mood, to be so perpetually playful and to enjoy teasing. So he's a character who leans into danger. He exists for chaos, to provoke it, to respond to it. But also it comes from a very broken heart. So the 2 things are really fun to play.
Absolutely. And Alan, you're new to this franchise.
I'm new. Yeah, I'm the new guy.
How did you find playing with these guys who know these characters inside out, know this world inside out?
Yeah, I mean, I'm deeply grateful that I inherited a cast like this that not only was wonderful, but knew their characters so well and had lived in them already. But I did feel like we had a chance to go to places they hadn't gone before. With Loki, since that's the current topic. It was very, very true that we consciously knew we wanted to let him explore parts of his psyche that had not been shown before, and yeah.
And Kevin, what was it about Alan that made you bring him on? I mean, obviously a lot of people know him for his work in Game of Thrones, and there seems to be a... Yeah, indeed.
Well, you know, it's Game of Thrones, it's Mad Men, it's Boardwalk Empire, it's The Sopranos, and that's a pretty impressive resume, frankly. Game of Thrones had some obvious crossover into the tonality and a little bit of the worlds we were doing, but it was that resume and those amazing credits that made us want to sit down. And when we met, he had a lot of great ideas about the storyline, and we talked a lot about how to make this one. What did I do?
He did something. Just can you hold on a second, because he's talking about me for a second. So,
so anyway, Alan's amazing and it's incredible and it's spectacular. And the movie, when people see the movie, it has a very different look than the first one. And a lot of that is the style that Alan brought to it and his cinematographer brought to it. And we went to Iceland and we went to London. We shot here to make it feel as real as these amazing other worlds can feel.
Not right here in the Apple Store, but in Greenwich and other places around London. Alan, did you want to muddy and bloody up Asgard? Was that something you wanted to do with this?
Yeah. I wanted to sort of dirty it up a little bit and give it a feeling of history and a feeling of, my feeling was that in the Marvel Universe, everything comes together in these hubs called Avengers, but when they're not doing that, the heroes go off to their own worlds and their own movies, and each one should feature what is special about that particular hero. And Thor is a superhero, but he's also a warrior prince from an ancient culture, and it was fun to try and feature that tone and that visually and tonally in the movie. So
it's intriguing as well how much of the movie takes place in Asgard. A very conscious decision on your part?
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to. They're in the mythology of these characters. There are 9 worlds. We saw a little bit of Asgard in the first one and Earth in the first one. And we wanted to see more of that. And that's part of making Asgard feel like a real place.
Yeah.
Is to see more of it, see how the people live there, and explore all the nooks and crannies.
Absolutely. Shall we have a look at Tom and Chris Hemsworth in action? Yes. Tom, this is a scene where Thor asks Loki for help. I don't know if you want to set it up as carefully as you can and give it a little bit of context.
So, Asgard takes a big hit from an ancient race with an ancient grudge, and this ancient race is the Dark Elves, led by Malekith, as played by Christopher Eccleston. And they disappear, and Thor is perplexed by what to do next, and the only person who knows how to possibly find them is Loki. So Thor is tasked with going down to the deepest, darkest dungeons of Asgard to ask for his long-lost brother's assistance.
Nicely done. Alan, did that pass muster? Did that meet your approval?
That's not how I describe it at all. Yes, that'll do.
Okay, let's take a look at the clip.
I know you seek vengeance as much as I do. You help me escape Asgard and I will grant it to you. Vengeance. And afterward this cell.
You must be truly desperate to come to me for help. What makes you think you can trust me?
I don't. And you should know that when we fought each other in the past, I did so with a glimmer of hope that my brother was still in there somewhere. That hope no longer exists to protect you. You betray me, and I will kill you.
When do we start?
Such a great delivery, such a great line.
Tom, what were you doing during that clip? Because all I heard was people laughing, and then you looked
Alan
mischievous.
was filming.
Oh, Alan was filming it.
That was me trying to take attention away from him.
Okay. Video piracy is a crime, Alan. Do not accept it. A couple of people, when Loki first appeared in that clip, went, "Oh," which I think speaks in a way to the impact this character has had. Now, Kevin, were you taken by surprise, I guess, by the impact Loki's had, the huge fan base, as we can see here today, that he's engendered?
It's pretty amazing, and we've been in a couple of cities now, and what follows this guy is pretty incredible. It's pretty amazing. We were in a mall in South Korea, and there were 7,000 fans for Mr. Hiddleston, which was pretty impressive. We knew Loki could be a great villain. We knew he could be a textured villain. We hoped that he would capture the imagination of the world and let us put 3 movies around him. But what Tom has done with it has surpassed all the expectations. To this level is amazing.
Has that in any way altered your plans for Loki?
It has not altered the plans up to this point necessarily. Where we go following this movie, we'll see. And I certainly, would love to do anything with Tom. He's amazing to work with. I love this reaction.
Yeah, I think it's coming from right here.
Oh.
That'll be on the internet tomorrow. As Feige confirms Loki spin-off movie. Right, that's going to be
exactly.
And Tom, clearly that wasn't. Is that all your own hair in that clip, by the way?
Sadly not. Yeah.
No.
It's not my genetic inheritance, as you can see. Gosh, where do I start, really?
That's a different Loki from anything we've seen before. He seems broken in that clip.
Broken, entirely. I mean, I hope it's no accident to see. There is a scene in the middle of the first film where a young man is informed that the narrative of his entire life is a lie, and that to me is a sort of cornerstone of the entire characterization. Is that's the beginning? It's a scene between Odin and Loki where he finds out he doesn't belong in that family, and it's very emotional, and it's the beginning of his isolation. And so from that moment all the way through to this moment, he is a solitary figure, existing entirely on his own mettle for his own ends, motivated by deeply damaged. So all of his villainy comes from a sense of having been betrayed, a jealousy, a pride, an anger, a vengefulness, and the particular damage in this scene is, I don't want to reveal it.
But something bad happened.
Yeah, to me, it was just so important to break him in a way, to take him all the way down. because otherwise he would continue on the same trajectory.
Yeah.
And it was really fulfilling to play that scene because Loki's a character who never reveals his true hand. He keeps his cards close to his chest. In a way, the game is more enjoyable than the ends of the game itself.
Yes.
And this is a scene where I think he behaves authentically, and so that was really fun to play.
And Alan, you are the third person to direct Tom as Loki in 3 movies. Now, does that mean that Tom comes with his own version and idea of what the character is, and how can you impose? what sort of notes do you have? How can you direct?
It's funny, I don't want to make a joke about how impossible he is to work with, but you can't. I can't do that convincingly. He comes with a tremendous backstory and a lot of work, and you can tell when he talks about a scene how well thought through it is, and how much emotional work he's already done. But like all the best actors I've ever met, he comes very open to where it can go and what can happen and what's possible. And it was, a joy. It's always a joy to direct people like that who are curious about what's possible. The only difficulty is stopping takes and moving on to the next thing, because he will try absolutely everything, not in a kind of helter-skelter way, but just in a kind of, can it be better, can it be refined way, and it's a joy to work with as a director.
And Tom, I guess it's quite unique as an actor as well for both yourself and Chris. This is your third director, your third film in 3 years. I can't think of many actors who've had an opportunity like that.
No, it's such a privilege. I mean, yes, as an actor, it's such a rare distinction and privilege to come back to play a character for a second time, let alone a third time, and every time it feels as though it becomes more full and more rounded, it was wonderful, and I should say, in his absence as well, that working with Chris for the third time was incredible, because he's probably the greatest scene partner I've ever had, and there is a complete trust between us, and I think just sort of having gone on this journey together across these 3 films, and they're all massive experiences. This film took 4 months to shoot. Avengers was the same. Thor 1 was the same, and those are huge experiences to go through, and there is just complete trust and mutual understanding and respect, and it just makes the work better, I think. I hope, anyway.
What's interesting about the film, obviously people haven't seen it yet, is that for the first, I say 40-45 minutes, you keep Thor and Loki apart. Again, a very deliberate decision, because you must be the easy way out would be to put these two together in scenes right from the off.
Yeah, I mean the great thing is you put Chris and Tom together, and it's amazing. And in the green room, we were watching this clip before we showed it, and Alan was remembering that there were some lines that had fallen out at certain points in the cut. And at one point we said, no, just put them all in. It doesn't. The scene. There's no such thing as it being too long when it's these two. But Loki had to spend some time in the dungeons. For his time there to mean anything, and for him coming out of there to mean anything, and there was a lot of other story to set up before then, so we didn't want to rush into it.
Okay, excellent. And Tom, I'm sure a lot of people here know that you auditioned for Thor, back in the day, and you did a screen test as well.
They can't imagine that.
Yeah,
yeah, indeed.
Does that
help? He was born Loki.
Yeah, precisely. Does that help when you're playing Loki, who wants what Thor wants?
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Really, I can't imagine that universe anymore.
Yeah.
Actually, because it's all so long ago now, so I guess I don't know. It's odd. I'd never consciously think about it, if I'm honest.
But it's such a great story. I think you should just pretend, because I mean,
okay.
Yes, it all comes down to a deep resentment for
I don't know. I was only ever Thor for a very short period of time, and that was even before the character was clearly written on the page. If I think I can say this, I auditioned for Thor in an American accent.
Oh, really?
And so this is like way back in the day.
You put on, how much muscle did you put on for that?
I put on
tremendous amount.
20 pounds.
And blonde hair and,
for the audition.
And no shirt.
Wow. Okay. So how'd you get the role? You put on an extra, what, 20, an extra more?
I don't. I mean, the truth is, I just can't imagine it.
Yeah.
It was, you know, Chris is the only Thor now. He's absolutely definitive, and no, but he is though. I mean, it's just a fact. And I love playing Loki. I love it. It's I've never had an experience like it in my life. I think he's such a complex character.
Yeah.
He's so fun to play. In a way, it's a stretch in a different direction, you know. So it's all good.
But an American Thor, I can't quite get my head around that because obviously Thor is British. We all know that. Kevin, did you think about an American Thor right from the? Well, he's Australian, but he's British in the movie. So, did you think about an American Thor right from the off? Or?
We auditioned lots and lots of people, and I'm sure there were Americans in there. I know there were. But it was conversations with Ken Branagh, the director of the first Thor film, where we sort of decided, and I think he rightfully so thought that sort of this non-specific English accent would be. Which came with Tom, free of charge, but which the other characters could emulate, and Hemsworth does very, very well.
Absolutely, and we're going to have a clip now in which we meet Thor. Tom, sadly, you're not in this one, so you can take a break.
Yeah.
This one's but what's interesting about this clip is, and what's interesting about this film, and Kevin and Alan, you can speak about this as well, is how funny it is. It's called The Dark World, and I think people might think that it's therefore a very dark movie, a downer of a movie, but it's hilarious. Can you talk about that leveling that sort of?
Well, there are two things. One, when we first met with Alan, he ended up being much funnier than I anticipated, and had
much funnier than being today. But
some of the biggest laughs in the movie were from very early meetings that we had together on the story. But humor is a big part of all the Marvel movies, and I think it allows you to go deeper in the emotion. And sort of counterbalance it with the laughs.
And Alan, can you talk about that?
Well, I came on to make sort of a dark tragedy, and I screwed it up. So now it's I came in trying to darken it, trying to give it texture, but very quickly the next thought was, oh my God, we better make sure it's funny, because if we're going to actually have high stakes and kill people, within the Marvel universe.
Spoiler alert.
just people.
Randomly.
In the Marvel universe, it's critical to have a really wide spectrum of flavors as you're watching the movie.
Yeah.
I've sort of came to learn that, and partly by watching the Marvel things and by watching other movies where that's less the case. And it's just critical to be able to be on the edge of your seat and to invest in characters, and then to find the whole thing ridiculous and be able to laugh at it. And so, if you're going to darken it, you have to lighten it on the other side as well.
Absolutely. So we have a clip now. This is Thor's introduction in the movie. Kevin, I don't know if you want to put this in context and set it up for people.
No, it's been about a year from the events of the Avengers. Loki has caused all sorts of problems in that film. That has sort of inspired various people across the 9 realms to try to cause equal problems. The Bifrost, which is the way the Asgardians travel, has recently been repaired, and Thor has to spend his time cleaning up messes around the galaxy, and this is the end of one of those.
Okay, let's take a look at the clip. Thank you.
I've got this completely under control.
Is that why everything's on fire?
Great.
Okay. I think I know the answer to this. We're going to take some questions from you guys now. So if you have any questions for Kevin and Tom and Alan. Yes, okay. Where do we begin? I'm going to try and be as I'll start right over here with this lady over here.
Hi, Tom. And everyone else. But it's my... you said in the first film Loki was an antagonist, and in the Avengers he was a villain, so we've sort of seen him in every emotion possible. Would you agree that in the Dark World he's kind of like that mystery card? He's that Joker of the pack, because you don't really know if he's going to be good or bad, because we've sort of seen him in both emotions. If that makes sense.
Yes. Simply.
Well, you once said something that I loved, which was when we were talking about where Loki could go, and it sort of came up earlier. If you dig down deep enough, you get to the good part. And the way you put it was, coming out of the Norse mythology, he's the god of mischief. He's he who does good, who does evil. You never get to the bottom. You dig down, you find the good part. You keep digging, and it's evil again. And you keep digging, and it gets really, really sweet. And then it's really vicious and horrible.
Yeah.
And it never stops with him.
I guess that's his. In all of the history of the character, he is. I've said it before. He is this agent of chaos. That's where he finds definition. And actually, because of Christopher Eccleston's character, he is the primary villain. It's really fun to play the unpredictable firework in the pack. That if you buy a bunch of fireworks, you know what they all do except for that strange one at the end. Yeah, exactly. That's Loki in this film, and I hope that therefore that when you see it, he's just full of surprises. I'm fairly certain he is.
Okay, next question. I'm open to cash offers for questions, by the way, if anyone wants. There's a lady right here.
Hi, if Loki was to attack London like he did New York, what landmark would he go for first, do you think?
Ooh.
Apple Store.
Yeah. He needs a full tilt diva though, so it would be like, I reckon he would establish some kind of headquarters on top of the Shard or something.
I could just see him in the London Eye going around very, very slowly.
Why does this not go faster?
Okay, next question, please. There's a lady right here.
So, did you ever imagine that, especially after the Comic-Con, what you did there was awesome? I watched it on YouTube. It was fantastic.
Thank you.
Did you ever imagine that Loki as a villain would be even more popular, possibly, than the hero of the story?
Careful.
Than Thor? Sorry. Sorry. I love Chris, too. But
He's not here. It's fine.
It's all been completely beyond my wildest expectations, truly. I still feel so grateful to people that they find the character interesting. And Comic-Con was just so much fun. It was so fun. Yeah.
Whose idea was that to dress as Loki at Comic-Con? Was it Kevin's or? It was Kevin's.
Yeah, we had talked about it, and I had a feeling Tom would do an amazing job.
Yeah.
And I was right.
So you don't just dress up as Loki and just walk around the place and...
I don't. It takes too long. It takes 2 hours to get there. So, but the energy. I mean, I don't know if anyone in this room is there. But the energy in that room was absolutely palpable. So it was as much the audience as it was me. It was this sort of alchemical moment. It was great. Next question.
Next question. I'm trying to work this way. I see it. Don't worry. There is a lady with glasses. I'm sorry to send you into the crowd. Yes, thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
My question's actually for Alan. I was
Okay, I'm going to make this go on as long as possible.
I can't actually see him. Hang on. Hello.
Hello.
My question is, working on Game of Thrones, did you bring any influence while you're directing that to Thor at all? Because I see some sort of atmospheric similarities, so I was wondering what that had.
Yeah,
what influence that had.
I think I could just say yes and do a Tom. Yes. It sort of came from two ends. I was excited about the things we were doing on Game of Thrones. I loved the scale, and I loved the fact that it was a fantasy realm that felt sort of dirty and real and alive. So I was eager to sort of explore that more. And I think my feeling was from the Marvel side there was interest in this because, to be honest, I wasn't the only Game of Thrones director that was being talked to early on. So I think there was an affection for that stuff at Marvel. But that's just one tone amongst many that went in. But yeah, I mean, I think in the battle sequence that you saw a part of there, it was sort of, it grew out of my experience on Game of Thrones, that, the dirt flying in the air and, horses running around. Of course, we couldn't afford to do that on Game of Thrones, but we would if we could. But yeah, tonally, I think so too. It's the same situation. You've got intense, wonderful relationships like brother to brother that is really the core of the movie, set in what could be kind of an abstract, off-puttingly fantastical world, and you try and bring those two together, and it's the same task in both in a way.
So, Kevin, do you look at TV almost as a breeding ground for the next generation of Marvel directors?
I do now. We hadn't before this wave of films, but I had looked on with admiration of what the Harry Potter franchise had done with David Yates.
Yeah.
And he did the last 4 of those and had come from TV. And I think TV's in a golden age now, led a lot by the shows that Alan has done. So I said, well, I should look there. And we met with a lot of people, and thankfully Alan agreed to do this one, and Joe and Anthony Russo agreed to do Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
Fantastic. Yes, please. Here, right in the front row. One of the 7:30 a.m.ers, I'm guessing.
To Tom, what was like a moment that's defined your life and like changed it?
I mean, I was actually just thinking about this the other day. Life is so random, and it's only in retrospect that you spot the moments that changed it. You know, most things are like life is a random sequence of events, and you can only trace a linear meaning through it when you look back. And you just you make the best choices you can in the moment. A moment that's changed my life. Well, my sister was reading a book this morning, which she texted me about the formation of the brain. It seems random, but basically she was saying how the part of your brain that regulates emotion and learns discipline and basically sort of locks down in maturity is at its most active between 18 and 23. So so she said, she was saying what the point is, most people then are at university or college, and therefore university is neurologically formative. So I would say, in that light, I was like, wow, that's amazing. So I'd say getting into Cambridge University has changed my life.
That was it.
There you go.
There you go. Okay, we got time for 2 more questions. So let's go. There's a lady right at the very back with her hand up. Yeah.
I saw a hilarious video on YouTube. I hope you don't mind I ask this. Can you do 240 times 6?
240 times 6? I don't know if I can. I'm not good at this.
If this was countdown, you'd be done by now.
It's around. It's around 1400. It's around.
Yeah, it's around.
Right.
He's a god of mischief, not maths.
Yeah.
Very good.
1440.
Yeah.
Was there a punchline for the? No, okay.
No, that's it. Okay, wow, lots more questions. Let's go right over here, and let's go front row again. There's a lady in the t-shirt here.
Hi.
Hello.
I remember reading something that you looked into mythology when you were getting ready for Loki. And I want to know, like, when you think your Loki is closest to the version in mythology.
That's a really good question. I mean, the mythology is vast, and it would be impossible to sort of try and distill all of the stories from the mythology into the, especially because I have to pay deference to the character as created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, but. I was in Australia recently with the film, and somebody wanted me to sign their copy of the prose Edda, and she read in Icelandic the very first line of Loki's occurrence in the popular consciousness, and it said something like Loki was the first deceiver, the shapeshifter, and the worst of all gods, and there are. I'm proud to say I was. It was nice to reread that because in this film there are moments where he is incredibly deceptive and he changes his shape, and to all intents and purposes is the worst of all gods. I suppose that the key thing for me is in his is the trickster. This idea of a figure you cannot trust, and you never know whether he's telling the truth or not. and there's a lot of that in this film. So.
And Kevin, do you look at the other mythologies when it comes to fleshing out these characters, or do you look at the 50 years of comic book history that you have?
Both,
Yeah.
both. But we spent a lot of time looking at the mythology on the first one, to build just as Stan and Jack did when they were making the comic, and a lot of it is very relevant. I had certainly forgotten that first line, but that's pretty amazing.
Isn't it great?
Yeah, I was going to say shape-shifting, so that's pretty cool that that it was all there right from the start.
Absolutely. We have time for one last question. Oh, my word. I'm going to be true to my word and go this way, sadly. There's a lady with glasses in the second row, third row. Yes, third row. Thank you. No pressure.
Hey, everyone. I was just going to ask, were there any moments on set which were just funny moments, like just ridiculous things that happened?
Yeah. Yes. Do you want to go?
No, I hope you're good at this. I'm terrible at anecdotes. So.
I mean, Chris and I can't take each other seriously, in the best way, and we played a childish game. We shot in Iceland, which is one of the great kind of pleasures and privileges of making the film, and there was one day when it was very cold, and we were trying to keep ourselves warm.
Steady.
Yeah, come on.
The imagination just took off. That was great.
No, we just played a stupid word game that got sillier and sillier and sillier and sillier. And anyway, that was a funny moment.
Got quite rude, as I recall.
What's that?
It got quite rude, that word game, if I remember rightly, from an interview you did for
that's
Empire.
right. It's such a stupid game. I mean, basically, it involves. It's like a sort of call response game. So you say, "I've got a new job, working as X," and the other person says, "What's it like?" And then the next response is a pun. So, for example, "I've got a new job, looking after dogs in the afternoon. What's it like?"
It really bites.
No. Okay. Or you say, "What's it like?"
What's it like?
A walk in the park.
Okay.
But Tish. And then it got stupider and stupider and stupider. And it seemed ridiculous to Chris and myself that we were dressed as superheroes playing this game on a volcano in Iceland.
Just another day.
My favourite one was, "What's it like? I've got a new job working in a sewer.
What's it like?"
It's shit.
And on that bombshell, that's all the time we have, I'm afraid. Thank you so much for coming. Thanks for your questions. Thanks most of all to Kevin Feige, Tom Hiddleston, and Alan Taylor. Thank you.
I have an army.